I wonder where in the world she is.
Figures I'd end up in Philadelphia.
If you've never met or found someone who said the new Scooby-Doo movies is their favorite classic-era Scooby series, congrats, now you have. I grew up with this series just as much, if not more, thanks to the best of DVD set, of which I still have my original copy, and it's very much served its time. Scratched discs from extreme use, the slipcase is long gone, and it's generally beaten by time. Because the series had double the length of time to cover as an hour-long program instead of half-hour, but still worked on the budget and timetable of your typical Hanna-Barbera series, there is so much to love about the animation here that is just simply more messy and off-model than you'll ever see these characters in classic do. And while that hour-long device doesn't work for many who find the show to be dragged out, I could never get enough of it. I've already talked about perhaps the most iconic episodes in depth, such as the 2 Batman episodes or the 3 Harlem Globetrotters episodes. You can go and find videos like that from this series already. Definitely watch those after this if you haven't, but with how much I love this dang show, I'm going to be indulgent in the year of our Lord 2025 and just dive into this wonderful, wacky little show, furthering this mini-series just about it. I'm splitting and pulling together the episodes and guests up in ways that complement each other, which means today we're in for 2 very special episodes, 2 that I didn't even get to grow up with as much, because due to legal reasons, these 2 were not included in that best of DVD set along with several others. It wasn't until the Blu-ray release on June 4th, 2019, that both of these episodes finally made it to home video in the modern age of discs. What's more notable about pairing these up is that in the recent Scooby series, Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, which was basically a modern reboot of this show, the second season gave us direct sequels to both of these episodes that I'd say acknowledge continuity and serve as real follow-ups. So we're going to look at those episodes as well and see how they compare. Today's guests are Sonny and Cher, or more mainly Cher, and of course, Sandy Duncan. What's even more appropriate for this pairing is that the same year both of these episodes aired, 1972, Sandy Duncan actually appeared on Cher's TV series, The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour in the second season, performing together. Sadly, there's no footage of this online. The best you can find are these 2 photos. With all that set up, let's start delving into these stars more directly. I'm covering them out of order because I know you want Cher first. Season 1, Episode 8 of the new Scooby-Doo movies, The Secret of Shark Island, aired October 28th, 1972. The real-life guests, of course, for this episode are Sonny and Cher. Iconic individually, as much as they were as a duo, the 2 were hugely popular during this time in the 1960s and 70s. Sonny Bono started off as a songwriter and producer before eventually meeting his future wife, Cher, although they divorced in 1975, less than 3 years after this episode aired. During their time together, I Got You Babe was perhaps their most iconic hit you might know. I had a Halloween decoration as a kid that sang it.
Babe, I got you, babe.
Cher, after her career really took off while in this relationship, has gone on to become a huge part of pop culture history, still working to this day. The 2 made many appearances in all sorts of media, such as the Comedy Hour show that Sandy Duncan guest starred on. After his music career, Sonny actually went on to be a US congressman in California in the 1990s. He passed away in 1998 at the age of 62. As of 2025, Cher will be 79, and like I said, still being just as iconic. This episode obviously was while the 2 were in their prime as a duo, and really demonstrates their chemistry and ability to be great with comedic timing. So let's get into it.
Today, Scooby-Doo meets Sonny and Cher.
We kick off with the gang ready for vacation, which never ends well. Today was meant for surfing at the beach, but with the lightning and general storm, Daphne figures it's probably not such a good idea. They see a couple having trouble out in the rain, none other than Sonny and Cher on their second honeymoon, having trouble getting the top of the car down. Worse, that a tire goes flat.
Now don't panic, Pocahontas.
Unfortunately, with great comic timing here between the 2, Sonny left their spare behind to make room for water skis.
Sometimes I feel like a little old woman.
Recognizing them, the gang pull up.
Everybody knows them, Scoob. That's what's his name and what's her name. Sonny and Cher.
It was, of course, hard to miss them with the customized car.
Sonny Bono and Mrs. Sonny Bono.
What are you doing here, Cher?
Drowning.
The gang give them a lift to the hotel, which Sonny gives directions to with the promise of luxury. Already, the Hideaway Hotel sign is looking worse for wear, and up closer there's a sign warning of shark crossing. As they drive on, they nearly collide with a trash removal truck racing down the path, the driver laughing.
Anyone get his license number?
No, but I'd recognize that dirty laugh anywhere.
Love how Sonny's mouth didn't move. Fred determines something isn't quite right about wherever they are now. It seems someone fishy has their eye on them too, growling into a walkie-talkie. As they reach what's supposed to be a golf course, Cher takes a closer look at Sonny's pamphlet.
Oh no.
What do you mean, oh no?
It's an old Indian expression, which means if that's it up ahead, this hotel brochure speaks with a forked tongue.
No lights are on and the whole place is dilapidated, and Cher notices vultures with their eyes on them. Not quite the promised seagulls. Fred honks, but only triggers bats and some property destruction, so Cher decides they should go in quietly. Sonny tries introducing himself to the owner, Mr. Meekly, a few times, who can't hear with his hearing aid turned down until Cher dings the bell. Even so, he's still a little too hard of hearing.
This is my wife and we're married.
Should hope so. With all those children, the twins are the spitting image of you. Well, how do you tell them apart?
Sonny is finally delighted when the old fellow puts his glasses on and recognizes a proper celebrity.
You're the Hound of the Baskervilles, right? The hotel staff loves having celebrities stay with us.
Cher asks of the rest of the staff, and they spy Matilda, keeping an eye on them across the way. Cher is so shocked, she loses her eyes here. Sonny asks about the deluxe bridal suite with the sun deck and tennis courts, but Mr. Meekly says those got destroyed in a rock slide about 9 years ago. Turns out Sonny's friend who recommended the place was here maybe 15 years ago, and the place has gone to shit since the brochure was printed. They hear a crash, the porch dropping off into the rocks, and the bridal suite rests comfortably above those. Can't say I'd love sleeping there, but Sonny agrees to it and asks for the gang to stay until the storm is over, paying for their rooms. Cher notices there don't seem to be other guests, and the gentleman explains they're the only ones willing to brave the curse, which he says involves shark monsters from a legend told by local indigenous people. Apparently, the head shark will walk upon land, followed by his fellow shark people, driving humanity to the sea. With a crash of thunder, the gang hears some weird moaning sounds, and Mr. Meekly mentions they might have heard the old wives' tale that the shark god summons his creatures by blowing into a conch shell, as one of the shark creatures watches from a window. This honestly has a nice creepy factor to it building in my opinion. Anyway, the boys find themselves unable to rest while so hungry and decide to go look for a midnight snack, while the girls look out their window. Daphne thinks she saw something dragging itself out of the water, and with the next flash of lightning, they both definitely see a shark creature. Over in the bridal suite, Cher takes some jabs at Sonny's new pajamas, listing off the many reasons she's unhappy with the hotel.
I am enjoying it. Or my name isn't Barbara Streisand.
Your name isn't Barbara Streisand.
You catch on fast, big boy.
When Sonny heads to get a snack himself, he's faced with Matilda and nopes out.
Who is that? The Avon lady calling?
This next scene, if you're watching the episode on streaming or on the Blu-ray, is unfortunately not present, as it was removed during syndication for more commercial time when the show was rebroadcast in 1973. But that can't stop me. Here on YouTube, thanks to Space Hunter M, of course, missing segments from 2 episodes that have been edited for time have been recovered. The boys list off the things they want to add to their meal as some eyes start to spy. Shaggy finally finds what he believes must be the service elevator and opens it up, dismissing that it's clearly too small to serve this function, hopping right in to continue their search. Meanwhile, the girls take Fred to show him what they saw, and as they describe the horrific creature, it pops out to hear it all, clearly taking offense.
And yucky, ugly, ugly.
Did you just go?
I thought that was you.
Back to the boys, as they fall down, definitely not in the kitchen as intended, but rather a wine cellar. As Fred looks out the window, it seems clear, and as he dismisses the girls, they hear the conch again. Cher wakes Sonny up in the morning to get out, and Mr. Meekly informs Sonny his other plans are off the table, namely because of sharks. Cher is eager to leave, but old dude informs them of the condition of the main road. That is to say, it's flooded, and the next mean low tide isn't until next Tuesday.
Man, that is mean.
A lot of them decide to split up to find some fun, and the girls head out to prove their sighting last night was real. Cher, out with Sonny and Fred, points out the conch meant to lure the men to the sea again.
When he said men, he meant all of us. Mankind.
All right, but I'm a woman. kind man.
Listening more carefully, Fred hears more than one conch, and upon investigating finds it to be coming from some empty bottles on the shore. Bottles notably with the seal of an ancient Spanish king, which Fred notes as valuable collector items that shouldn't be lying around. Elsewhere, the boys come upon a boat that shouldn't be there, heading out and spying a wrecked ship, a Spanish galleon, through the bottom window. Not great is what swims out, the shark creature attempting to board and join them, so they race backwards headed straight for the others who regrouped. Scoop describes seeing the shark god, and they spot a kelp dredger coming in, but when they go to signal it, it's completely gone, and they find a stairway leading to nothing but sharks. Inside, they can't find Mr. Meekly to question him, and what they do find are shark god footprints where he should be, so everyone splits up again.
Aw, you don't believe that old wife's tale, do you?
Why not? I'm an old wife.
Sonny and Cher discover a hidden passageway under the desk with shark god footprints leading down, and the boys find an empty kitchen. They discover a hot pipe with a cold oven, when Scooby finds their shortcut from before, back down to the cellar. The others meanwhile decide to go down the rope ladder to those stairs, while Sonny and Cher find another secret door that takes them to the cellar, just in time for the boys to arrive. As the couple go to investigate what they hear, the shark god pops out and targets Shaggy. As the others walk down the steps, it starts a big reaction and they begin pulling away from the rocks, about to fall right into the sharks below. As the shark god still chases Shaggy, the five of them all end up together, leading to a chase all around, while the others fall through the air to their potential doom. Back with the shark god, they push over a wine rack onto it and run, and as the trio are surrounded, Fred calms the girls down, demonstrating that the fins are completely phony, so they grab one and see where they go. The kelp dredger that vanished seems to be unloading gold, and the operator that's obviously Mr. Meekly sees and attacks them. The others meanwhile come upon a foundry, which doesn't make the shark god happy, and Dig Velma's voice coming from Daff.
Me either, but we've got to dodge.
The shark god chases the others over, stopping to pull the lid back on a trash can, and jumping up for escape, they find a literal pot of gold, and that pot of gold is headed straight into Inferno, so they tip over on top of the shark god. As Fred prepares to stop Mr. Meekly, he finds his hands covered in paint. He picks up a couple of the trash can lids and bangs them toward the operator, realizing who it is, who has a complete change in tone, even growling like the shark. Suddenly, Matilda shows up and tells them to freeze, speaking right into the supposed hearing aid and telling the Sharkmen to head back. Turns out Matilda is Matt, a government agent. These guys are pro-sea scavengers, and the shark outfits hid all their scuba gear. Matt says he was in drag because Mr. Meekly would have been sus toward a man, but I think he was really just preparing for his drag race season. Jeez, Mr. Meekly is literally unhinged. He was after the gold doubloons from that Spanish galleon the boys found, of course. The government caught on when they tried to spend some, which they were trying to keep secret to not pay taxes. He was melting the gold into something he could smuggle away, the freshly painted trash can lids.
And now, Captain Meekly and his trashy crew are headed for the can themselves.
Sonny asks why the hotel is abandoned, and it turns out it was condemned, standing on a landslide area. Leaving, Shaggy talks up finding the hot pipe and cold stove as proof he knew the plan all along. Cher puts her foot down to see food from here, which starts to finish off the remainder of the hotel, crashing into the sea.
That's my little Indian Sphinx.
Anyway, that's the secret of Shark Island. It's a shame they were gatekeeping it from DVD for so long because of rights issues. It really is a good episode, with a solid mystery and atmosphere that builds on folklore and an unsettling location. And Sonny and Cher obviously have really solid chemistry with a nice sarcastic wit about them that makes the episode a lot of fun. But also, they clearly hate the hell out of each other. The sarcasm is mean as hell. It's no surprise they eventually get divorced even in Scooby canon. Mr. Meekly is kind of an obvious villain. They give it away before the reveal even, so we don't even have an unmasking in the classic sense like normal. But I don't think he's really the point, is he? The point is enjoying Sonny and Cher. This would probably have been one of my more often watched episodes as a kid if I'd had regular access to it like the others, and I'm glad that Cher came back later, because she really is a lot of fun. Speaking of, let's head over to the sequel where Cher and Scooby once again have to fight off some sharks. Season 2, Episode 17 of Scooby-Doo and Guess Who? Cher, Scooby, and the Sargasso Sea. First released in America on HBO Max on October 1st, 2021.
Whoa, it's Cher.
Obviously, Cher is back, and it's a direct sequel. We just don't mention her late ex-husband, Sonny. I assume that if she and the gang are still cool, as I said, she and Sonny have long since departed in the Scoobyverse as well. The episode actually opens on Cher's yacht at sea, Scooby trying on a new jumpsuit she's gifting him for his birthday when...
Singer, songwriter, actor, producer, and total goddess, Cher!
You guys don't have to say that every time I walk in the room.
Cher prepares to continue adding to the suit. Daphne points out to Shaggy that Cher drags the ocean for waste and turns it into beach needs for just such an occasion. Very resourceful and earthy eco-friendly of her. When her chef walks out though, a shadow devours him. Cher takes the boys meanwhile to her kitchen to personally whip something up for the birthday boy, even forgiving him when he causes some destruction, and throwing a plate herself to get wild. Daphne elsewhere has taken Fred to see what he's been waiting for all day.
Hold the phone. Is that a radar display screen? Hold the phone. Is that a GPS monitor? Hold the phone. Is that a phone?
At least the good boy is enjoying himself. Cher is personally mixing up the cake ingredients in absence of the chef, and I love that she's come back just to screw around with them this time. They do a little much though, and leave barely enough for a cupcake, so they head to the gym, watched by a creature. Love, love, love her gym outfit. Same for the boys, very divalicious. The boys lounge for a while, and I love her tossing the weights on them like it would do anything other than sink them down. Like, Diva, what did you expect? On the complete opposite end, she's not really surprised when she says there's a shark in the pool. Like, she's just seen too much to be shocked. The others run up and assure them it's fine, but a shark with legs pops out anyway, and we spend a while on a chase sequence through the different doors. I do agree with many that doing this in literally every episode of Guess Who gets old. This really wasn't a thing in the series that actually happened until pop culture made it a thing retroactively, and it feels repetitive after enough episodes. We get some more divalicious disguises from here, but I don't know who they're supposed to fool. What other divas in outfits like this would be on the yacht owned by Cher? Everyone reunites and they hide in some wigs, finally getting peace.
The first time I met you kids, we were attacked by Sharkman.
The mystery on Shark Island. That was so much fun.
I think you and I have different definitions of fun.
See? Actual sequel episode, referencing the first time they met as we just covered. If you're doing something like this, it needs to be a real sequel. Cher brings out the finished cupcake for Scooby, but they tragically lose it overboard as things go haywire. As they look into the bridge, the Sharkman is driving the yacht, and they crash into the Sargasso Sea. Thelma explaining it's named that for the seaweed that covers it.
Legend says that the seaweed is carnivorous, and it devours the sailors whole, leaving only the ships trapped behind. Forever.
Really, Velma? Really?
Mysteries are what I live for.
Checking the bridge, Cher finds some seagrass, but this is different kind found only deep on the ocean floor according to Velma. Fred finds something wrong with the engine, and they discover a spark plug to be missing, so they split up. Cher surprises Scoob with a proper cake, then they all get surprised by a sea captain shipwrecked a long time ago who proceeds to randomly steal the whole thing. Worse, the shark dude is back again, chasing them around once more. The trio meanwhile find footprints, and noticing something odd about how low the van is sitting, Fred opens it to discover a shark dude inside. Everyone runs into each other and they realize there are two shark men, so they run up, bolt the door, and suit up. In their scuba gear, they explore the wreck of the SS Dolly, supposedly full of treasure but clearly empty, and the shark isn't happy they're there. After some chasing, when they surface, Cher's yacht is speeding away with the sharks driving, so Cher thinks to inflate Scooby's suit and have everyone grab on, swiftly flying them back aboard.
Gang, it's trapping time. Sorry, Fred, I hope I'm not stepping on your trapping toes.
Cher, you can step on my trapping toes anytime.
Valid, Fred. They get the net prepared, only leaving mermaids. And, of course, the dynamic duo are the mermaids. Scooby pushing the anchor overboard and starting a chase. Cher's beads tripping up the sharks just as planned. They bounce off the next piece and right into the net, ready to unmask them and reveal the missing captain and first mate. Velma explains they'd been searching for the SS Dolly full of gold for years, so they dressed up as sharks to hoard away the gold. Basically the same as Mr. Meekly.
Sorry, Cher.
That's better.
Thanks to salvage rights, meanwhile, the gold will be going to Cher's favorite ocean charity, because again, she's very mindful, very earthy, eco-friendly. For his full birthday party, Scoob gets a fancy hat and a third attempt at a cake finally as they sing for him.
Oh, Scooby, you're so sweet.
No, Cher, you are.
No, 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 you are.
Just blow out the candles.
Scooby birthday do.
And that's Cher, Scooby, and the Sargasso Sea. It is a bit derivative of the first episode, and it's a pretty typical episode of Guess Who, which isn't a favorite for many, but I think Cher's mere presence makes this one of the more valuable and enjoyable episodes, and I think it's fun to do sequel episodes sometimes that feel mostly true rather than like it's in a whole other universe. This episode came out nearly 50 years after the first, and I fully buy that this is a follow-up that takes place in the same world as the first one, and who doesn't love Cher? Anyway, definitely one of my favorites of the show. As far as Guess Guess Who goes, up there with the Dynamite episode. With that said, it's time for our second special guest of the hour. Season 1, Episode 7 of the new Scooby-Doo movies, Sandy Duncan's Jekyll and Hyde, aired October 21st, 1972. Obviously, the real-life guest for this episode is none other than Sandy Duncan. Born in 1946, 79 years old as of 2025, same as Cher, actually. Many might know her for her turn as Peter Pan.
High up and as light as I can be. I must be a sight lovely to see.
Or maybe any of her Disney films, like voicing Vixen in The Fox and the Hound, or Liz in The Cat from Outer Space. Maybe you know her for Funny Face and her self-titled TV show following it, The Muppets, or her numerous theater roles beyond Pan. She was everywhere during this period of the 70s, and she's an icon no matter where you might know her best from, which is why she's stopped by the Mystery Machine twice like Cher in both of these shows. Without further ado, let's get into this first one. Sadly, the missing segment, which featured King Kong as seen here in this concept art with the Wolfman in the episode, has never resurfaced, so we'll have to make do this time.
Today, Scooby-Doo meets Sandy Duncan.
The episode starts with the gang arriving at Mammoth Studios, a film studio, with a sign that says Super Duper Market to be built here soon. They're disappointed an iconic place like this is being demolished for that, as the guard directs them through various movie sets. We find that the studio is currently remaking Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, having already made it twice before, which Scoob hasn't seen with how scary they are. Scooby is no stranger to the novella by Robert Louis Stevenson, as a descendant of Jekyll appeared in Nowhere to Hide from the original series, suggesting it really happened in the Scoobyverse. I have a video on that one. As far as film versions of the Jekyll and Hyde novella go, this isn't far off either. It's been adapted to film numerous times, and if you ask someone their favorite version, you'll potentially get a different answer each time. As the gang drive on, someone jumps out and spooks them, causing them to drive off the edge of a bridge. We finally get exposition that they're here to see Sandy Duncan. When they hear her cry out for help, they walk over and see her running and crying for more help, the person from before still lurking as she points and says she's not acting. Scooby, meanwhile, is in love, and digs Sandy's unusual blue eyes instead of just dots. Taking the gang to set, Sandy describes how she was doing her lines, which were in fact help, when she saw a
Ghost? I can't really say for certain. I've never seen a ghost before.
Right after, it lunged at her and then came across the gang. We then meet Shirley, Sandy's stunt double, who's a dead ringer for Daphne in addition to sharing her voice actress, along with the rest of the cast and crew around, like studio head Mr. Thayer, a likely reference to Louis B. Mayer, former head of movie studio MGM, with Mammoth clearly being MGM inspired in general. Being fitted with her Daphne wig, Sandy describes how the movie should be over already, but it's been interrupted over and over by all kinds of accidents, delaying the studio from being torn down. As Sandy heads over for work, Thelma notes how identical Daphne, Sandy, and Shirley look all together, though Sandy points out Daph is the only natural redhead here. She then describes the last 2 scenes needed, a lot of which will be stunt work with Mr. Hyde for Shirley that they hopefully can finish tonight. Shirley notes how unhappy and suspicious of each other everyone is, and everyone basically has motives to delay things. Thayer wants publicity, Henstone is saving money, Slats hates Duke, and so on. Scooby keeps fawning over Sandy, and Shaggy gets pissed, leading Scooby to say he's jealous. I shan't say it. Shirley leaves to check on the clearly very upset horse, and Fred and Velma agree something fishy is happening on this set that now involves them. As Sandy is running to her cue, Scooby notices the ghost is up to something and tries to interfere, running over and just barely saving Sandy from a post being pulled down. Shag and Scoob point out the clear evidence of sabotage with the rope, the ghost watching, and Shirley is understandably fed up, quitting and exiting the set. The bigwigs wondering how they could ever find another stunt double, their eyes catch Daphne. Daphne does a costume test that settles things, and they decide to start shooting again tomorrow. Everyone's saying goodnight for now. But with Daphne in the line of fire, the gang is staying behind to get to the bottom of this. And remember, the van is stuck anyway. Or is it? Not only is it back on the bridge, it's clearly facing the exit. They go over what they know, and Scoob reenacts what he saw. As they wonder how the ghost got away so easily, he seems to demonstrate, pulling a lever that drops the boys down. The trio tells the boys to check out the tunnel below and continue yelling so they can follow, where eventually they find an exit and pop up on another set. A creepy man is waiting to scare them off, so they jump in a car and speed off, then mistake an Egyptian set for a place to eat.
Well, no wonder the service is so bad. Like the waiter just got back from the hospital.
They run off from the mummy and end up locked in a room where unfortunately they come upon a lion, which thankfully is a movie prop, controlled by the mummy, so they run out and speed off in the car. Fred and Daff end up on a set of Shanghai, where they have to fight off a pirate, then come upon a giant prop dragon controlled by another pirate, eventually finding some fireworks they toss into its fire to throw it off. They see the pirate again and conclude he was controlling the dragon, but that was a different dude with an eye patch who's gone missing, so who knows what's true now. But for the time being, they need to worry more about finding the boys.
I wonder where in the world she is.
Figures I'd end up in Philadelphia.
Yes, this is where that meme is from. Anyway, the old pirate is out to get her next, so she runs off right past Fred and Daff and into the water below. The two get into a boat to rescue her, but the pirate cuts them loose and pushes them off, so all they can do is hope the boys are safe. This is where the deleted segment with King Kong would have been. Shaggy and Scooby coming across him on a miniature set complete with a mini Empire State Building, and losing their car, leading them to a wintry setting. But we'll have to continue hoping that it resurfaces someday in the future, sadly. If you're ever wondering about the seemingly missing period of time for Shaggy and Scooby for a while here, that's why. From there, this shot is the iconic one from the opening credits theme of the show with the finalized dress for Daphne. They arrive in perhaps Alaska and spy a werewolf out of season creeping around. The boys on their own continue running until taking a left and diving off right into the others.
We thought you were a wolf man.
Will you settle for King Kong?
King Kong?
King Kong?
He'd have to be over 80 stories high.
He sure cut the Empire State Building down to size.
I'll bet you were on a miniature set. He wasn't that much bigger than either of you, was he?
Unfortunately, they have another visitor.
And it's not Yogi Bear!
The gang hop onto a sled, Fred forcing poor Scooby to be their sled dog, taking them so far off that they end up in the Wild West. Everyone's pretty tired and ready for bed when Scooby points out another person paying visit, an angry indigenous man running with weapons out, just barely missing Velma. They split up, the boys into the sheriff's and the trio into the bank, with the three of them getting locked in, while the boys lock themselves into a jail cell by accident. They all start talking and hearing each other, not realizing the sets are back to back, and Daphne gets some scary sandy blue eyes as they catch on. They end up sleeping where they are and awake at 7 a.m., so they start pushing on the movie set to try and escape, flying out in front of Sandy and the rest. They update her on what went on in the night and promise to try and keep an eye out, lover boy Scoob especially. Sandy performs with Mr. Hyde, while Stunt Hyde gets pissed at Shaggy bugging him, but taking his eyes off for a second, Stunt Hyde vanishes. Mr. Hyde and Sandy finish, so Daphne goes to take her place for the stunt until realizing she needs to fix the dress, where Mr. Hyde grabs and abducts her. The others see Daphne run all across the set, doing all the wrong things, until they realize something is wrong, especially with both Mr. Hydes still downstairs. Checking out the scene, they find a ransom note that shows he thought Daphne was Sandy, and feeling responsible, she decides to join in locating Daff. They can't find anything around the stairs, so Scoop sniffs all around until he runs right into a secret passage. Inside they see something, and trying to turn on a light, Scooby loses Sandy and himself in another secret door while the others find Hyde's cape.
Scooby, you did it again. I don't know exactly what you did, but you did it.
Sandy finds them to be in the prop room, where they find all the things the ransom note was cut out of, including this Spider-Man-esque Daily Bugle newspaper that also has an Easter egg for Charlotte's Web, a movie that Hanna-Barbera would release the following year. The two look around and hear the others calling, so they return the calls, everyone running into each other as they hear Daphne calling out for help. On another complex set, they look up to a castle and find Hyde tying Daphne up, but thankfully Sandy reveals the ski lift that can get them up fast. As he catches sight of them riding up, he scurries out with Daphne in his clutches, so they have to jump down. Scooby landing on poor Sandy and taking a tumble. They land on a sled, joined by the others coming behind, but Hyde gets away, so Scooby jumps back trying to unsuccessfully stop the sled, the others following suit. Finally, they crash onto another set, a creepy cemetery, where Daphne is being carried into the mausoleum. Sandy calls the others in for a plan she's conceived, where she has the others be thankful that they found and saved her, even though Hyde knows he still has her inside, confusing the hell out of him enough that he eventually opens the door enough for them to crash in. A very confused Hyde asks who this double Sandy is, and she asks the same, but we weirdly are once again robbed of a proper unmasking, we just randomly fade to black, and come back in with him unmasked to be an iconic silent movie star, Zelia Z. Fairchild, who disappeared years ago and has been staying here in secret the whole time. The only world he'd ever known, as Sandy puts it. Having a soft spot, she points out he was only trying to save the studio, and nobody did get seriously hurt. It was even good publicity, so maybe they can help the icon. Everyone points out the many scary costume characters he donned over the episode takes talent, so he says they can discuss payment later. The gang themselves get dolled up as extras for the movie, Scooby getting a scene with Sandy for the final shot that finally wraps things up. They thank Sandy for letting them join, and Scooby wants to stay, so Sandy offers him to at least be in her next film. But as she describes all these scary animals that will be there on location in Africa, he decides he's changed his mind about saying yes after all. And that's the very straightforward Sandy Duncan's Jekyll and Hyde. In contrast to Cher's episode, Sandy doesn't actually have very much to do in this one until more of the end of the episode, but at that point she does get to take part often in the plans and action, so it still keeps her from being a totally throwaway guest. I think it's kind of funny they tossed her into a Jekyll and Hyde film. It's not really the type of role she actually was playing usually, but the personality they give her is still plenty of fun for what she brings, and her blue eyes are striking against the normal contrast of black dots. Being stuck on an iconic film set also allows a lot of different locations that help make the episode feel less like you're stuck in just one place for the full hour like some of the others, with plenty of interesting things going on and taking advantage of the opportunity. I really wish we could still see the King Kong sequence. Daphne, being a stunt double, also allows her to have more to do than she sometimes does, and kind of casts her against her danger-prone status, although, of course, she's still abducted as she often is. Scooby's crush is also very cute. It's nice when he has more to do such as that. The reveal of who Hyde is at the end is kind of disappointing and lacking in unmasking, but it makes sense and I like the idea of it. It's a story that's been used successfully in a few things. It really is quite a nice episode and I'm glad it's safely available again on a wider scale these days. Anyway, are you tired of Hollywood's obsession with remakes? Well, it's time for another one, but at least it's still starring Sandy Duncan, so it's okay. Let's get into this last episode. Season 2, Episode 13 of Scooby-Doo and Guess Who? The dreaded remake of Jekyll and Hyde, first released in America on Boomerang.com on October 1st, 2020.
Jeepers! It's Sandy Duncan!
Note how she's flying like Peter Pan, her iconic theater role, even featuring a shadow like Peter. In California land, the gang are returning to Mammoth Studios in this direct sequel, and this time Daphne is going in as the stunt woman from the start. They get a little lost among all the sets to drive by like before, but Mr. Hyde is getting a jump scare in this time, setting off explosives all around them, safely stopping the van. Mr. Hyde pops out, warning them to leave, but they head to set anyway, taking it for just another movie thing. The actual Mr. Hyde actor currently on camera, Bill, startles the gang as they point out what they believe they saw him just do, but more importantly, swinging in on Peter Pan-esque wires.
It's actor, singer, dancer, comedian Sandy Duncan.
Kind of silly, but they have to lean into what's most recognizable here. That's the show's thing. Anyway, she calls Daphne her favorite stunt double and hugs her, still featuring her striking blue eyes against the black dots of the others. Bill isn't happy about the earlier accusation, so Sandy takes everyone somewhere private to catch them up on the recent happenings. This being a direct sequel episode, the gang finds images of the original movie that was being made during that first episode, with visual recreations of the events. We find from Sandy that it was a huge hit that saved Mammoth, but the studio is once again in trouble, hence trying to capture the same magic by remaking it, except it's even more cursed this time.
Cursed?
Cursed.
And it seems so, a light falling from above, seemingly done by Mr. Hyde again. Sandy introduces the gang to Tabitha, who's playing her best friend, who offers to show them around since she used to be a tour guide. They meet the writer of the film, Bob, but the director says he's cutting the damsel in distress aspect, which Sandy says she never fit anyway. Bob is upset though, because this isn't honoring the original, but the director isn't having it, so he angrily storms off.
The writer wants his own movie to fail? Well, that doesn't make sense. Welcome to Hollywood.
Tabitha shows the others around the pyramid set when a mummy suddenly grabs and takes her into a sarcophagus. Inside they find a trap door and a bungee cord, but Mr. Hyde lets something loose. Something prehistoric. Elsewhere, despite it being 1893 in the story, Sandy's character is a karate-kicking spy who gets in a time machine chasing after Dr. Jekyll, who's become Mr. Hyde and also in the future, which Sandy has to stop. But first, Daphne as stunt double has to take on the guards in future futuristic spacesuits. The robotic dino chases the gang onto the water, but more movie prop enemies await them there as well, barely making it to land. Still doing her own wire stunts, they really want that emphasis that Sandy was Peter Pan as clear as possible. She even directly references it.
I once did a show where I was suspended 150 feet in the air. I had to dance the tango, fight with swords, and there was this huge alligator.
The others walk up and inform the studio owner of what happened, who's even more distressed with what's happening and the future of the studio. Velma takes a look at what he was going over, and finds an insurance policy that means if this movie goes under, the studio gets hundreds of millions of dollars. It seems everyone is now a suspect, least of all Bill, who plays Mr. Hyde. Except Mr. Hyde is behind Bill, and abducts him just like Tabitha. Sandy positively thinks of the acting experience he's at least making with the real thing as they chase. Inside the set he went in, they get a jump scare, and that initiates our generic and not really interesting Guess Who door chase sequence. But at least this one has a lot of different movie sets. The chase turns into a road race, Scooby accidentally ending up with Mr. Hyde, but Sandy sees her wires and decides it's time for her to take action, flying like Peter Pan and rescuing Scooby. Hyde runs away, leaving behind what seems to be a painting, until Velma finds a blueprint of the studio on the opposite side. Starting to understand, Zelia Z. Fairchild, who of course was the villain Mr. Hyde in the first episode, assures them he has no involvement this time. They confirm they don't suspect him, they just want his expertise, asking where the vault that keeps things like old film prints is located. Unfortunately, he says the location is now lost with how many times they've moved things around, despite how valuable those film prints would be now, up towards millions of dollars in worth. It just so happens the blueprints Velma found are exactly what's needed to finally track down this vault, which Mr. Fairchild confirms as Hyde watches. Velma creates a virtual map of the backlot and finds one building that never changed, definitely where the vault is, which just leaves solving the mystery, which requires making a movie, according to Velma. With Shaggy standing in for Dr. Jekyll in their performance, Hyde comes out for the bait, so the two make sure they're very loud and clear about having the blueprints with them. As expected, he uses wires to fly down and steal them. Then the members of the gang lock in and each play their part in the active trap, catching him in a net to do an actual unmasking this time. Turns out it's Tabitha. Velma explains how she used to work in the prop department with records of checking out an old poster, and in the old days the studio would often reuse whatever was around, which was how the blueprints went missing. Tabitha knew of the infamous vault, and with everything done on green screen now, the lot was empty enough for her to look around, but when the Mr. Hyde remake happened, she needed it out of the way so she could continue her search. The bungee they found was rigged to a fake stunt mummy to make it seem like she was abducted. She obviously wanted to sell the film negatives, open her own studio, and become a star. As for the vault, this is it, finally located after all these years. Later, the studio owner found Bill and everyone else affected safe in the back, and with all those film prints, the studio can financially save itself now. Again, they just need to finish this remake. Once again, the gang gets to partake in filming, until things get messier, and then the messiest, where even Sandy Duncan can't find a bright side.
Have a Scooby-Dooby day!
And that's the dreaded remake of Jekyll and Hyde. Like the other Guess Who episode, this is nearly 50 years after the original Sandy Duncan episode, so her presence and voice sound different and aged a few decades when watching back to back. But I'd argue she actually has more to actively do here, and more of a solid sense of who she is than the original 1972 episode. They kind of overdo it with the Peter Pan wires here, but like many of the new Scooby-Doo movies guests, her original appearance doesn't really do too much to show off who she really is to someone that doesn't know her, though at least she is an actor in the episode. So Guess Who still feels like somewhat of an improvement in that aspect. Regardless, she has a lot more to do overall in the whole episode instead of being in the background for some of it like before, and she's still just as fun as she was. It's nice to have something modern and recent with her since she's not as active as she was in the 70s. This feels every bit as much a proper sequel as the Cher episode, maybe even more so. And like that one, I really do love the idea of at least decently executed follow-ups like this. Showing where locations or people went after the events of an episode and having continuity can be nice in a series that doesn't always put emphasis on that. Finding the lost nitrate film elements of classic films is also something I like. It's a shame how many iconic films have been lost in studio vault fires in real life or other similar situations. One funny thing here is Sandy Duncan not having an orange Daphne wig like before at any point, so Daphne doing stunt double work is even more obvious because it's clearly just an entirely different person. Maybe they could have done a few more callbacks or connections to the first episode, but for a 2020 episode, this is still a fun enough 22 minutes. One of the times Guess Who feels like more of a true spiritual sequel to the new Scooby-Doo movies. And that's when Scooby-Doo met Cher and Sandy Duncan, and Sonny Bono. The 1972 episodes featuring these dynamite divas of pop culture are still really a lot of fun, and like I've said, I'm glad they're both readily available these days beyond TV airings, whether it's the Blu-ray or streaming. And I really hope that missing Sandy Duncan scene with King Kong resurfaces someday. Same with all the others I'm sure we'll be getting to. For what we do have of these though, these are true classics of the Scooby world, and I think they would have had some good further popularity with at least my generation if they had an earlier DVD release, because these have a lot going for them, Cher in particular, as her popularity in culture has stayed consistent. That's why it's also no surprise that with both Cher and Sandy Duncan still alive, it made so much sense to bring them back for sequel episodes in Guess Who for the 2020 era, as that's meant to be a spiritual sequel or reboot to the new Scooby-Doo movies. Comparing them directly, you can see more obviously some of the aspects of Guess Who that aren't as strong when it's up against true classic era episodes, especially with the same kind of plots. But you can also find how the episodes are boosted with the involvement of a good classic guest star like these two, even if it's just their presence. I'm much more lenient on Guess Who than others, but these 1972 episodes definitely are stars of stars, worth having around out in the open. If you also love the new Scooby-Doo movies, as mentioned, I also have big videos on the Batman episodes, which also includes Every Time Scooby Met Batman in general, as well as the Harlem Globetrotters episodes, so you can go watch those now. And in extending this mini-series, I'm not stopping with Cher and Sandy Duncan. I'll be going over the entire series, so look for that in the future if that's not already available, because it is the future. I think you'll enjoy the 4 episodes paired up in the next one. Wednesday's child is full of woe, and she's also gone missing. There should now be a playlist that will hold all of the related videos. If you hate the new Scooby-Doo movies, and I know those people are out there, well, this is a treat for me, so it's not about you. I'm participating in self-care. I'll see you or I won't. Bye!